Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and trends that shape our world. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're going to explore a topic that affects many homeowners, especially those in their golden years: reverse mortgages. As we age, our financial priorities often shift. We may need to supplement our retirement income or pay for unexpected expenses, such as medical bills or home repairs. One option that's gained popularity in recent years is the reverse mortgage. But what exactly is a reverse mortgage, and is it right for you? A reverse mortgage allows homeowners to borrow money using the equity in their homes as collateral. The loan doesn't have to be repaid until the borrower passes away, sells the home, or moves out. This can provide a much-needed influx of cash for retirees who are living on a fixed income. However, reverse mortgages can be complex and come with their own set of risks. For example, the loan balance can grow over time, reducing the amount of equity in the home. This can be a concern for those who want to leave their home to their heirs or use it to fund future living arrangements. So, when is the best time to take out a reverse mortgage? The answer varies depending on individual circumstances. Some experts recommend considering a reverse mortgage in your early 70s or later, once you've committed to aging in place and have a clearer view of your income needs. Others suggest that it may be beneficial to tap into home equity earlier, especially if you need to delay Social Security benefits or avoid drawing from investments during a market downturn. We'll continue to explore the ins and outs of reverse mortgages and their potential implications for homeowners. We'll also examine other news stories that are making headlines today. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're glad you're still with us as we dive into the latest news from around the country. Today, we're focusing on a story that's been making waves in the world of politics: the ongoing battle over congressional maps. As you may know, Texas Democrats recently returned to their state after a 2-week standoff with Republicans over proposed changes to the congressional maps. These changes, which are being pushed by former President Trump, could potentially net Republicans as many as 5 new House seats next year. Now, we want to give you a balanced view of this story, so let's break it down. The Democrats have been fiercely opposing these changes, arguing that they're discriminatory and unfair. They've even gone so far as to build a legal case against the discriminatory map, which is expected to be hit with lawsuits if it passes the legislature. On the other hand, Republicans are pushing forward with their plans, citing the need for updated maps to reflect changing demographics in the state. They're expected to try and advance these proposed maps through the House's redistricting committee and procedural votes. But here's where things get interesting. California is fighting back. Governor Gavin Newsom has announced plans to put new congressional maps on the ballot in November, which could potentially counterbalance any gains made by Republicans in Texas. The state legislature is set to convene and work rapidly to pass legislation that would make this happen. Now, we know some of you might be thinking, what's the big deal about congressional maps? Well, the answer is simple. These maps have a huge impact on the balance of power in our country. They can determine which party controls the House of Representatives and ultimately shape the direction of our nation's policies. As we continue to follow this story, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the ongoing battle over congressional maps? Do you think these changes are fair? Or do you agree with Democrats that they're discriminatory? Let us know on social media using the hashtag #ConcreteBlock. And speaking of balance, we want to give a shout out to our friends in Illinois and Oregon, where Democrats are also exploring options to redraw their state's maps. It's clear that this is a complex issue with many moving parts, and we'll be keeping a close eye on it as it develops. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Good evening, and welcome back to Concrete Block. I'm your host, Walter. As we close out today's show, we're going to take a look at a developing story that has significant implications for crime victims and the organizations that support them. According to reports from multiple sources, including Mother Jones and other reputable outlets, the Trump administration is facing a lawsuit over its attempts to impose immigration enforcement conditions on funding allocated for crime victim services. The lawsuit, filed by New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin and 17 other state attorneys general, alleges that these conditions are unlawful and could have a chilling effect on immigrant survivors of violence. The controversy centers around the Victims of Crime Act, or VOCA, which provides billions of dollars in funding for organizations that support victims of domestic violence, assault, and other crimes. The Trump administration has introduced new grant terms and conditions that would require these organizations to cooperate with federal immigration authorities, potentially putting immigrant survivors at risk of deportation. Advocates for crime victims argue that this could have devastating consequences, as many immigrant survivors already fear reporting their abusers or seeking help due to concerns about their immigration status. As Carmen McDonald, executive director of the Survivor Justice Center, notes, one huge barrier for victims to leave an abusive situation is fear of their abusers reporting them to immigration, which is a real threat even when the survivor has a path to lawful status. On the other hand, supporters of the administration's policies argue that they are necessary to ensure public safety and enforce immigration laws. However, critics counter that these conditions are arbitrary and capricious and violate the Constitution's separation of powers. As we consider this complex issue, it's essential to remember that domestic violence and other crimes can affect anyone, regardless of their immigration status. As Krista Colin, executive director of the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence, puts it, domestic violence does not discriminate. The lawsuit is ongoing, and it remains to be seen how the courts will rule on this matter. However, one thing is clear: the fate of millions of crime victims and the organizations that support them hangs in the balance. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.